120 seconds. 110 seconds. 100 seconds. 90 seconds. 80 seconds. 70 seconds. 60 seconds. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
'Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and
Well,
you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends. Oh, yeah. It's time to get our talk on. Once again, it's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. Today is Talk Champions in the house. We have Cacique joining us via technology Zoom. We got Dr. Bowen. In the background, we got none other than Jay Hogarth. So, let's get started. Good morning there, Cacique. Oh, he's busy. Man.
Good morning, Stan. I got one of our guests. I'm trying to get him on the phone, straighten him out.
All right.
It's been a wonderful weekend, a wonderful week. The Taino Chess Club is really picking up speed now. We're having a lot of people coming through, and there's just some incredible news for all the residents of Hartford, man. And I just have to say it, Stan, bro. I am so happy that you decided to throw your name in the hat for mayor. Now we have a legitimate candidate. To all the residents of Hartford, we have a legitimate candidate now. All that rabble, push him out the way. Let's put the man in there. Come on, y'all. Let's go. Stan McCauley for mayor 2023. You heard it here first, right here in the Morning Talk.
Wow. Level of excitement there. How many need him out on the campaign trail?
Let's go.
Yes, we have a most definitely qualified contender for the city of Hartford, Connecticut. And so may the best individual win. And you heard it right here. Good morning to everyone. It's a fabulous Wednesday for myself. I started realizing as I woke up this morning that I got myself double booked, so I'm gonna have to pull out my titanium iron and straighten some stuff out.
Now, when you say you're double booked, are you double booked today or another day in the week?
Today, tomorrow and Friday happen to be two at least two conference / workshops that I'm booked for. So one's online and one is on the premises, and so I don't know how many devices I'm gonna need to be able to manage that, but I'm gonna have to work something out over the next I want to say 10 hours or so to make sure I can get myself ironed out of these wrinkled situations. But it's all good though. It's all about time management, and it's something that I actually stress and highly suggest to my students that they work on, and I let them know every single day is an opportunity to get a little better in the time management. And I too fall into that predicament where time management becomes something I have to straighten out. Ain't nothing going on but straightening over here.
Yeah, nothing worse than being double booked, especially if you got to be in two places at the same time. A little difficult, but you'll make it happen.
Absolutely.
You will. I know you will absolutely make it happen. So, how was your week there, Dr. Bowen? What? It's been a whole week since we seen you last.
I know. It's these days, even though we're easing out of this quote unquote pandemic, it seems like the days are still blurring a little bit because every 24 hours seems to move faster and faster. So it boggles my mind when somebody says, "Oh, I wish we had more time on the clock." I'm like, no, it's hard enough to manage these 24 hours. But the weekend was great. It always goes by pretty fast, and here we find ourselves midweek. So let's get our talk on.
All right.
Yes, and once again, you heard it first right here, and let's make it happen. Let's shake the foundation to its very core. Let's select someone who is not linked to any political party. I'm excited, family. We have a legitimate candidate, Stan McCauley, a man who's dedicated his life to service, and particularly of service to the Hartford community. So we have a legitimate candidate, y'all. Let's put him in there. Let's shake the foundation to its core.
There's a whole lot of shaking going on right about now.
And Dr. Maya, I'm so happy that you talked about your students. Please don't forget to mention to them the importance of electing legitimate candidates to office.
Absolutely. It's their civic duty to make sure that they're tapped in and they have a finger on the pulse of what's going on, because local politics impacts them directly. And so with everything else that's going on, it's very essential that these conversations be had so that, again, they can keep their finger on the pulse and identifying who's for them and who's against them. Because when it comes down to the policies and the decisions that are made locally, that's where it is that the impact is felt the most. And so absolutely, when the conversation arises, I'm definitely on top of that.
And we need to be, and we for certain, Dr. Maya, we need to know who is on our side. We need to identify our allies so we can move forward accordingly.
Absolutely. Just like in a chess game, you got to know how it is that the moves are being made and who are on the actual positions on the board, and be thinking ahead what the next moves will be based on what the opposition may present. And so it's all strategy and intentionality. And so we're ready for our move to put us in a position of checkmate with our mayoral candidate. That's my one bar for the day. No, none other than J. Stan McCauley.
That's what I'm talking about.
Spitting rhymes. I don't know if they even use that term anymore.
These
Yeah.
kids change it up every week. They change it up, Stan.
I don't know. I
I
don't even know if that was a term when I was when it was a term.
Yes.
Was that a term? Spitting rhymes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, definitely.
Yes.
What's
Spitting
old
rhymes,
becomes new
spitting
again.
knowledge, all of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hot and heavy in our local area, the Hartford Board of Education actually had a meeting last night, and I just wanted to briefly just give a quick overview of what happened. So through voting, a motion was made for the Hartford Board of Education to adopt the fiscal year 2023-2024 itemized estimate of expenditures in the amount of $429,382,852 effective July 1st, 2023. Now, keep this in consideration that this is almost $500 million.
$500 million.
That's a lot of expenditures in terms of dollars. And so, in order to make it make sense, what was presented by the superintendent and her cabinet was an overview of some slides that they had used in previous presentations. And from my perspective as an observer, leaving that particular meeting just left me with more questions, because as they tout, transparency is key. But if I have more questions, that means that it wasn't as transparent as it is that they made it to be. Some additional information related to the motion. The motion was made by Ms. Kimberly Oliver, seconded by Francois Drestel Leger. Final resolution, the motion actually passed, where the yeas were Kimberly Oliver, Philip Rigor, AJ Johnson, Yvette Bello, Francois Drestel Legier, Tyrone Walker, Jahira Escribano. Nay was Shantae Brody, and absent from the meeting was Dr. Jim Schmerling. And so, from my perspective, Dr. Schmerling not being there, it presents itself as a quote unquote abstaining from the vote since he was absent. But that's just my humble opinion about not being present for something as important as this. There are a lot of things that were stated in terms of comments. There were good questions coming out of the representation by Shantae Brody, and it again, it left me with more questions. And as of right now, I don't know whether or not they have a balanced budget, but it has been recorded. So for all of those that are interested in finding out what actually happened on last night, by all means, please go to accesstv.org, where you can find the replay being present for all posterity, if I'm saying that term correctly. But yeah, it's available. So local happenings, please keep your finger on the pulse, because very, very important, because this is the type of event / decision making that actually impacts you directly. And for those of you that have school age children that attend Hartford Public Schools, that budget means something. So put your finger on the pulse and tap in.
So, Dr. Maya, thank you for that incredible report. I have a couple questions for you. Now, in the past, you have mentioned that there's a pattern with the Board of Ed employees and the Board of Ed members. When the Board of Ed members ask for particular information, that information is not given. Is that pattern still continuing?
Absolutely. So it's with intentionality that there's a strategy at play, right? And so, for I can't speak for all board members, but from an observer's point of view, that being myself, an outsider looking in, when it is that I go into the next session of meetings, what's noted, or rather observed by me, is that whatever was presented as a question previously by any board member typically the answer is not presented up front in terms of old business, right? In terms of answering that question, so we could keep a succinct account of what has been addressed, for the public to, keep within the actual communication loop of what's being asked by specific board members to complete and provide a fully rounded conversation and dialogue of questions and answers. So, with that being said, if it is that the answer can't be provided during the same meeting that the question was asked, then I, as an observer, would like to, upon the next meeting, know what the results were in terms of obtaining the actual answer. And so it's an interesting dynamic, but I look at it as a strategy that's being deployed. Specifically when it comes to the superintendent and her cabinet. Again, with observing these meetings, I always feel like I have more questions personally about things that have been presented that, is it definitely doesn't lend to transparency, in my opinion.
And I agree with that. I think that pattern is also a strategy that's a learned behavior. That's a strategy that a lot of racists and bigots use to deny access to people of color. And unfortunately, we see how it manifests itself in us and then how we use it against each other. So I just want to put that out there to our family as to what we're seeing, the type of behavior that we see from the superintendent in her cabinet, because as far as I'm concerned, it is her job to make sure that her staff provide timely and updated information to the Board of Ed members so they can make informed decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, interestingly enough, from the superintendent and her cabinet's position, yes, they are administrators. But ultimately, when I start to think about the number of students that are impacted directly and the community impacted indirectly by the types of decisions that are made and the types of information that is conveyed, it's the antithesis of transparency. I mean, you can use a word, but if it is that your actions don't actually fulfill that specific definition of that word, then it's like you're double talking, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. And so again, as an observer, it doesn't line up to match. You say transparency is paramount, but then your actions speak completely different. I don't know about you, but I look more so at a person's actions than what they say. You can say
Absolutely.
you love me, but if you keep on running over my foot with your bicycle, that doesn't seem to be love to me.
I agree with you 100%, Dr. Maya. And it's just wonderful to have an opportunity to talk about the behaviors that our managers, because that's all they are. Leslie's a manager, and how they behave and how that impacts the way that services are being delivered to our students and families. And this is why on this show, several times I said before, Leslie has taken us as far as she can take us. She took us through the COVID. Can't nobody take that from her. She did a magnificent job, but now it's time for her to move on, because it's going to continue to do more damage because the reason that they don't provide that information is because it's either criminal, because why would you hide it, or is damaging to her and to her administration. Why else wouldn't that information be provided?
Absolutely.
If we're talking about full disclosure and transparency, then let's have that. But let's not talk about it. Let's actually have it in action.
Right. Let's walk it like we talk it, right? Let's walk it like we talk it.
Yes, absolutely.
Credit to the amigos, and right. And so, a lot of what goes on. Obviously, we can't know everything, but I mean, we need to really get an understanding of how it is that we were led into the conversation specifically about the budget, where a $24 million deficit was conveyed, right? And so it was mentioned at least one time, but at the end of the presentation, from my perspective, I didn't hear how it is that the $24 million budget is now no longer an actual issue. You get lost in the weeds when it is that there's so much coming at you in such a short period of time. For me, it's as an accountant, I know that in terms of presenting a budget, things do actually change over the course of time, especially when it is that you're looking at proposed revenue streams, right? But the expenses pretty much, depending on what you plan to keep as mainstays that can't really be touched versus those that are variable. So you've got fixed cost or fixed expenses, and you've got variable expenses. After again listening to the meeting, I'm kind of still in the gray area, right? It's one of those things where you would have, as a observer of the meeting, like to know that $24 million is no longer an issue, right? I know that they're mitigating factors, but in terms of whether or not it still exists, that's still a question mark for me, because it wasn't stated that it just no longer $24 million.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind, Dr. Maya, is that budgets are really used as scare tactics for employees of the Board of Ed, because that's the projected budget, and that's projected on so many students not returning. There's a number, right? So if those students returning more, then the budget will be bigger. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a scare tactic that they use to we need to cut so many positions and this and that. But that's not what it is, and they need to stop that nonsense. They like you stated earlier, they need to be in full disclosure and in full transparency, and that's not what's happening. That's why they're hiding. So once again, let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is.
Right. We have a guest joining us, so let me let this guest in the. Let me let our guest into the room. Yeah, a little obfuscation.
Obfuscation.
Obfuscation. All right. So we're going to be joined by a guest in a few minutes. So why don't we take a break early, and then we will be right back
with the guest. Beautiful. Dr. Maya, thank you so much, man, for all that great information about the board, man.
Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. It is time to clear the air and vote for a mayor who is unbought, unbossed, trusted, and accountable to you, the constituent. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I am an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote for mayor of the city of Hartford. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
Hi,
My name's J. Stan McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and
Well,
you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, welcome back. It's Morning Talk. J. Stan McCauley here with Cacique and, of course, Dr. Maya Bowen.
And Stan, I just want to say, man, that was an incredible advertisement, bro.
Oh,
I
you like
loved
that?
it,
You like
man.
that?
Yes,
You like
nicely done, bro. Especially the stuff about the party politics. But I have a guest today, and I'd like to introduce him. He's a magnificent brother from Hartford who has also dedicated his life to working with youth. And he was one of my, and continues to be my mentor, and a brother for life, man. I'd like to introduce everyone to Cleve Royster. What's happening, Cleve? Good morning, brother.
All right. This is scary, Lou. Good morning. This is scary, man. This high-tech stuff.
Hey, man, that's all right, brother. We you know, it's great to hear your voice. I'm glad that you're doing good. And, you know, let's jump right in, man. Give us a little bit of your, you know, your background, man. Tell us about you growing up in Hartford, Cleve.
Hello?
Yeah, you're good. We got you. You could talk.
Oh, okay. Hi, good morning. J. Stan McCauley, congratulations on your decision to run for mayor.
That's what's up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You know, our Hartford need a change. Hartford need a change. And I think that you will make help make it a magnificent change. You know, it's always good when people come from the left and come from the right and know what they're doing. You know, so you know, hopefully this will all transpire, work out for you. You know,
amen.
You got my vote. In other words, all right.
Well, I appreciate that. I can't do nothing without the people of Hartford. So you are a living legend.
Right. Well, one thing I know about you, and I probably know more about you than you know about me, is that you're a grassroots person. You've always been a grassroots person, you know, and no ifs, ands, buts about it. It's like, you know, if the seeds were planted, you're the root. So, You know, it needs to happen. You know, it needs to happen. You know, then you got if Lou say you're okay with me, man. That's it.
Thank you, Cleve. Man, tell us a little bit about growing up in Hartford,
Okay.
Cleve.
Well, I don't know how much time y'all got, but I grew up as far back as I can remember in Chatterow Terrace. That was my first memory of, let's call it, life. And I went to Mary Hooker High School, and that was one of the first. I lived on Chatterow Terrace, D227. I remember that address. And I went to Mary Hooker School. Used to go to the boys club, Southwest Boys Club. Those guys there were wonderful. I remember when they had the Police Athletic League on Saturday morning on TV, and I remember seeing like the Vaughn brothers, Sammy Vaughn, James Vaughn, the Hightowers, Tommy Thomas. Those are the guys that growing up were guys you looked up to because we were from that neighborhood. You also had Jackie Brown, who lived across the street from the boys club, but he wasn't considered a Chatterow Terrace guy because he didn't live in the terrace, But it was great growing up there. Then I moved from there to Bedford Street. Bedford Street was probably a lot of French, Italian, that I can remember. Jewish people lived in that neighborhood. Actually, on Bedford Street, I don't know how many people remember this, but there was grapevines and apple trees and 2-car garages. Okay, and I remember, being a kid with Nick Oliver. Well, not so much Nick Oliver, but the Oliver boys, James Patterson, Alan Campbell, and I know I'm forgetting people. We used to jump the garage roofs in the back of our homes on Bedford Street. You had the Luco Playground, which was a great playground for us. The problem was crossing Albany Avenue to get to the playground. Then you had Andy Anderson at the Clay Hill Center. So it was like really a community, a real good knit community where also, and this was important for us, is that there was a Stop and Shop or a ShopRite across the street in front of a Five and Dime where your mom could give you a note, and you go to the ShopRite and you give it to the store manager named Carmen. This is way before food stamps. And he would give you what was on that note. And then when your mom or your guardian said they was going to pay it on that day, they would pay it on that day. This also was a corner store there named Angelo's on the corner of Bedford and Albany Avenue. He would do the same thing. So everybody knew everybody in that community. Now, as far as sports was concerned, the Olivers dominated that area. You had the Olivers. You had Pert Oliver. Not so much Ronnie. Well, Ronnie was younger, but I'm talking about the older Olivers. See, people don't understand the older Olivers. They were great athletes, man. They were. I mean, hey, I know the Oliver that went to Syracuse. Listen, the Olivers were like the first real tough athletes. What I mean by that, you might lose, you might win the game, but you ain't gonna win the fight. Okay. You come down there to Luco and they play basketball, they play softball, they play kickball, and I think one of the things that inspired me when I was growing up was watching these guys with their mental and physical toughness. I can't remember his name. Pert Oliver, original tough guy. I was scared of him. Original. Then you had not so much Ron. You had, I forget the other one's name, but Herman was like an easygoing guy. But you had two or three Olivers that were tough. Now then you come along. There's Nick Oliver and Ronnie Oliver. They weren't as tough as their brothers. they were good, but they wasn't as tough as their brothers, you know. So, then from there I moved from Bedford Street to Magnolia Street, and I went from Mary Hooker to Vine Street School, and I ran into guys that always wanted to beat me up at Vine Street School. Dexter Williams Bay, another guy, and I used to run from those guys, man. I used to run from them. During that time, you had the influx of the gangs. And I remember Teddy Easterling chased me from DeLuco Playground. No, chased me from Ninth Gym, because at Ninth Gym used to go to Vine Street School for Ninth Gym to play basketball. And I would go there, and he chased me one day. He ran me past my house. I was living on Marvin Street then. He ran me past my house, about 8 of them. Ran me past my house. I took a left on Enfield Street, a left on Greenfield Street, a left on Magnolia Street, and circled back around. And in that neighborhood, the doorbells actually work. So I pressed the doorbell. I pressed the doorbell, and my aunt said, "What do you want?" I said, "Open the door, open the door." You got to get buzzed in. I said, "Open the door. They getting ready to beat me up." She says, "Go around the back. I just mopped my floor." I said, so I end up going in the back. I go upstairs. My aunt said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "They were trying to beat me up. They were trying to beat me up." She said, "Boy, you going back downstairs. You gonna take that butt beating, and they will leave you alone, because right now they don't respect you because you keep running." I went down there, man. I fought like 3 guys. I don't want to know the outcome. I don't remember the outcome. I had a bunch of stuff on my eye, but respect. Okay, so then I left Vine Street School. When I was on Bedford Street, went to Bonnet Brown. That's when I first met Mr. Hurley. He was the physical education teacher, and I was like the classroom clown. And the interesting dynamics or relationship that he and I had, and every time I think of him, I kind of break up a little bit, because he did so much for so many kids there. I mean, so many kids, so many. Somebody I was trying to figure out when he started his foundation, who was the very first Doc Hurley Scholarship Foundation winner. And I kind of figured it out. I said, the day he got the job with the Harvard Board of Education, and he went to Bonnet Brown, and he called roll call, whoever name was the first name he called, that was the first Doc Hurley Scholarship recipient. Scholarships doesn't mean that it comes in a financial package. It comes in a wholesome package. It comes in a package where those guys in the community at that time, they saw you doing something wrong, they put you in check. That was Mr. Hurley, Mr. Gordon up in Stowe Village, Mr. Carter. I can't even Roland Harris, the Harris guys, the guy that ran CRT. And you saw black men and black females. Mostly at that time, it was the black men that were out there in the community for us knuckleheads, and we learned to respect them. We learned to respect them, and they held something that we hadn't seen, and that was that pride in being a black man, pride in living in that community, pride in coming out of the store, and they would see you and they would say, "Hey, Royce, what you doing over here? You better behave, boy." "Yes, sir, Mr. Carter." I did not know Mr. Hurley's name was Walter until I was like maybe in my 40s.
That's beautiful.
Because everybody knew him as Mr. Hurley, Doc Hurley, okay? The Perry brothers. I mean, it's just so many guys, man. I just want to sit here and cry and say thank you to every one of them. Every one of them guys who took 5 minutes out. You'd be surprised, just like you're doing now, Lou. Just like you're doing, Stan. Take 5 minutes out and just acknowledge a kid or say, "Hey, man, you know better than that."
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that? And they respect you. That's community respect. That's community respect. I know when I worked in the Hartford school system, I had the hardest time with the some administrators, with the exception of Barbara Maben, she understood me because she understood what needed to get done for that community as an educator, as an educator. And that's when they had the special ed programs. And the special ed programs was just basically those kids who was, yeah, they may have been somewhat dysfunctional. Those kids needed a hug, a good morning, learn how to say good morning, learn how to shake hands. And Lou, me and your kids, you know, we spent I don't know how many summers going to basketball camps. And I'll say this to this day. Your kids, Lou, always showed me the utmost respect, as well as yourself and your wife, Lou. And our relationship is culminated by what we were exposed to. You know, what we were exposed to. We weren't the North and the South. We were on the same plane. We understood what needs to get done. And we say it like it needs to be heard. Sometimes people say stuff, but it's not how it needs to be said. They'll soft shoe it. I don't soft shoe it, Lou, and I know you got concrete shoes on. I know you don't. You know, and so when we talk about the Hartford community, and I look at the Jordans, Cotton Butler's family. He had 4 sons that went to Project Concern out in Glastonbury, Connecticut. Glastonbury back in the 70s. And all 4 of Daisy Butler's sons graduated from Glastonbury High School via Project Concern. So here was a whole bunch of positive stuff going on there, unrecognized by the Hartford Current, the Hartford Times, and even sometimes it may be a little blurb in the North End Agent, if that's still around, with the guy that played football for Weaver. So it was great. Then you would see the guys that play football or sports in that community continuing on stuff, and it was just a great foundation for a lot of us. Because I tell you, man, I used to I'm all over the place, but I remember being a kid sitting on the sideline and watching Bobby Knight out there playing basketball, and I remember he took 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and showed me how to shoot a left hand and a right hand hook shot, and you couldn't tell me nothing, man. Bobby Knight showed me how to shoot a hook shot. And I had the hook shot down, left and right hand. And I will never forget this as long as I live. We played Maryland in the 72 NIT championship game, and Lynn Elmore blocked my hook shot. Well, prior to him blocking my hook shot, Dr. J used to come up to the park, Keeney Park. And, I didn't even know who he was. All I know, a guy pulled up in a Mark IV with the tire in the back, blue. He had a giant afro. I said, wow, who's that? They said, well, that's Julius, Dr. J. Julius, who's that? He played for UMass. He plays for basketball? Yeah, he plays for UMass. But we also had our group of guys. Billy Jones was my hero, man. I thought he was the baddest dude in the world. I call him Philly Billy. And even to this day, I call Billy Jones Philly Billy. I remember him playing at Fairfield, getting cut by the 76ers. I was hurt because I said, wow, my guy's going to make it to the NBA. Wow, right out of Hartford. I could identify. Even to this day, if you run into him and you say, Billy, Mr. Jones, what did Cleve Royster call you? He called me his hero, or Philly Billy. That's respect. I also remember at Weaver sitting in the stands seeing coaches from Kansas, Wichita, the whole Hartford community, as far as athletic and academic perspective. These kids were getting scholarships left and right. Jewett Newkirk used to kick the football out of the stadium at Weaver. He got a full scholarship to Arkansas.
Nice.
Ben Matthews, Wichita State. Wayne Jones, Niagara. The Wells brothers, Bridgeport. Owen Mahorn, Fairfield. So all this, and you want to know something? You look back on that, the one person who stands out with all the connection is Doc Hurley. I remember him standing at a game when Hartford played Weaver, and he was under the basket. He was under he was under our defensive basket, and he was giving me stuff to do to Bob Nash. Nobody else said anything about where he was standing because he was Mr. Hurley. And he was saying, body him, push him. Don't let him do this. Don't let him do that. And I tell you, when we won that game, I saw that man. He had tears in his eyes, and he was just so happy for me because I was one of his original knuckleheads. I mean, original knucklehead. Now we go back to when I couldn't play for Weaver after we won the state championship. Even winning that state championship with John Loban, the Loban boys, Biddy, the Hardaways, Dexter Williams, but I don't even, Lance Paul, I can't, all those guys, Master Nardi, I mean, all the Fugees and stuff like that. What culminated for Weaver to win that first championship in the school history, and I'm going to say this, is that them parents, the William Bays, the Mr. Campbells, all those teachers that would turn their lights on so we could put in an extra mile of practice down on that field. Okay? And when we won the championship, first football championship at Weaver High School, the whole pride of that community was behind us. You know, and the ironic thing is that I never saw the Hartford Board of Education acknowledge Mr. Hurley. Never. Until they named the gym after him. You know, well, the field house, you know, that was fine. But that was, he self-made that. They had no choice to do that because he was just outstanding in that community. I remember when I needed to go to a prep school, and him, Doc Hurley, Miss Miller, and Dr. Cobb, Dr. Richard Cobb, God bless him, God bless him. They got together and they took me to St. Thomas More. First, Mr. Hurley and I went to look at this school in Boston called Thompson. It was Thompson Academy. Well, you know, the only water I ever saw was the Connecticut River in the Keeney Park Pond. I didn't even go to Polk Park. You know, so they're gonna put me on a boat and take me to this school. I used to watch scary movies, man. You know, when they put the person on the boat and it's foggy out. That's how it was in Boston. I looked at Mr. Hurley. I got off the boat. Mr. Hurley said, "Come on, Big Cleve." I got off the boat. I got on land. I said, "Okay, Mr. Hurley, I'm ready to go. I don't like this place." Because I didn't swim. So if I got mad and wanted to go home, I would have to swim. I said, "No, I don't like this, Mr. Hurley. I don't like this." So we ended up going looking at a couple other schools. Then we went and looked at St. Thomas More, and I went to St. Thomas More playing for Nick McCarchick, and that was one of the best things to ever happen to me, because I'm 73 years old, I'm in pretty good health, and I'm still here today. And I respect and bless those people for taking time out of their lives to help me, because it allowed me to continue on helping others. And, you know, I call myself a Hurley soldier, Lou. I'm not a general, I'm not a captain, I'm just a regular Hurley soldier. You take a couple of kids, you take one kid, you mentor them. I look at Jordan Butler, man. Jordan Butler and I are so tight. It's unbelievable. One of my kids that I had when I moved down here, I go and get him every weekend because he's autistic. He's having a problem, but he don't have no problem when he knows if he don't behave, he's not going to be with Coach Cleve over the weekend. You know, Saturday. What is me going to a gym for 2 hours, letting this kid come, and then bringing the kid back home? We stop and get the Wawa breakfast, 2 for $5. I ain't got no money, Lou. But anyway, I ain't got no money, so we go 2 for $5.
That's beautiful.
And he enjoys it. But the bottom line is that he's behaving in school and at home. So, you know, you have that. I sit back and going to St. Thomas More. Here I am, right out of Weaver. Had no clothes. They gave me 2 pair of gray slacks, some wingtips, shoes, the thick sole wingtips, some Argyle socks, a shirt and a tie, and a blue blazer, and 2 powdered blue shirt button down. I said, "What's this for?" "Oh, you got to wear this to go to class." Class? Wait a minute. I was wearing some khaki pants and a plaid shirt from Mr. Fitzgerald's on the Mother's Street, you know? And so, you know, I'm there at this New England prep school. One other guy there named Nehru King, he was from St. Anthony's High School Jersey City. Very pompous, very pompous. Man, I didn't like him, man. I didn't like him because he thought he was the bomb. But when he got on the court, I gave him the old Keeney Park move. He ain't know what to do. So, I see these guys like Dennis Mink and Joe Peterson and Fred Phillips, all Hurley soldiers, They say, hey, Zeke, man, you elbowed me back in, 74. I remember one time Dennis Mink said, yo, you throwing them elbows. Watch the elbows. I said, I'm throwing them. You watch them, okay? And that's our camaraderie. That's our love for each other and respect, So I'm at St. Thomas More. I go down there, all white kids, one other black kid. He didn't act black. He talked very proper. His linguistics was outstanding. I was coming like, yeah, man, what up, man? How you doing, man? How you doing? I had to learn to change the language because changing the language or changing my thought process changed me. My roommate, I'm a Baptist at a Catholic private boys boarding school, and my roommate is a Jewish kid that got thrown out the synagogue school with a half a jaw. I'm like, what the hell? And so I'm sitting in the room one day, and he says, his name was Bert, man. God bless Bert. And I said, Bert, man, black people always got nicknames for each other. Z, I call Lou after our big boy with respect, we always have nicknames. So I said, hey, that's a cool nickname you got. They call you JB. He said, I don't like it. I said, why? He says, it means Jew boy. Now, let's go back to Hartford. I remember on Mother Street, there was a little Jewish church that those guys, the Jewish people, would come down with the beards and the hat. And I remember that song. Dun, 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 dun. And I remember that. No, I remember that song. I used to sit inside the street and watch them come. And didn't understand what it was, but keep it in mind, back then, that community was a very diverse community. On the other side of Brook Street, they had those buildings there. All Italians lived in that building. The little ladies with the black, always wore the black scarves and stuff like that. The Italian guys with the, the Apple Jacks and stuff like that. You saw that. Then up on Magnolia Street was mostly Jewish people. And then all of a sudden you start getting, because Charter Terrace, they tore down Windsor Street through redevelopment, and the people that were living in those communities infiltrated the other communities. They was accepted somewhat, not accepted somewhat, so it was a big change. So I'm at St. Thomas More. I remember that. I said, that's not right, man. And then he said something. He says, what do you think they call you, Zeke? I said, Zeke. He said, no, they don't. I said, what they call me? They said, they call you nigga. I said, who? He named a couple of guys. Listen, I said, come on, Bert. I had to put my Bedford Street mentality, my Oliver mentality. I went down there and said, yo, man, you been calling me nigga? So Bert and I'm beating the guys up. Bert's hollering, get him, Cleve. Get him, Zeke.
He's watching.
Hey, Bert ain't throw a damn punch. All right? But I was hitting. So now, here it is. Here it is. The black guy, the Jewish guy, got to go to the Catholic court.
The Baptist,
Catholic,
the Baptist and the Jew have to go to the Catholic court.
Yeah. We didn't stand a chance, man. So they said, all right, this is what's going to happen. They met. They said, we're going to go think this up. They met for 2 minutes. I said, damn, Bert, they going to throw me out, man. I'm going to get killed. Mr. Hurley going to kill me. Never mind, Mr. Hurley. My Aunt Grace going to kill me. They come out. They said, all right, well, we're assigning you to the cafeteria, Cleve, and you guys are to rake the beachfront, because St. Thomas More has that Garden Lake, but they like for that sand to be raked. That was our job. We had to rake the sand 3 days a week and report to the cafeteria by 6:30 every morning. Listen, I went down there weighing 140. I came back, I was like 190. That was the greatest job I ever had in my life, man. The guy said, all right, break up, 50 eggs. I broke up 50 eggs, showed me how to cook them. He said, fix you something. Man, I was eating like 6 eggs, pancakes, bacon, drinking orange juice, milk. as I want to say, the WIC program ain't have nothing on me. It ain't had nothing on me. I was eating well. I was treated pretty good. And then we won the New England Prep School Championship, another first. So I done won the first state championship at Weaver High School in football. I go to this prep school out of Hartford, some 50 miles out of Hartford, and we win the school's first New England Prep School basketball championship. And then I came back the second year, and we won it again. And I'm the only one in that school's history to date to win 2 New England Prep School championships back to back. So now McCarthy is saying, well, this school want to see you. I say, see me for what? They want you to come for a visit. Nobody was educated. It's not like it is now. These kids, they come out the 7th grade. They got a 7th grade. They got an agent. What is the top 50 player in the country? He's a top 5 recruit. What is a top 5 recruit? There's so many great athletes out here, and now the marketing has taken place. And yeah, those kids are getting scholarship, but you know what the ironic thing is? Only 60% of them last. Because when you get into that real reality, see, I'm the type guy, listen, you could bring all that write-ups you want, but you got to prove it on the court for 40 minutes. And even though the game is only 40 minutes, I'm going to treat you like you only got 20 minutes. I'm going to be on you the whole time. And I teach from that perspective. Mental, physical, emotional toughness on and off the court. So now I'm looking at these schools. I was fortunate. I met Rick Mount at Purdue. I met Dave Collins at Florida State. I met Calvin Murphy at Niagara. I met Bob Lanier at St. Bonaventure. This little black nappy-head kid from Chatterow Terrace going to a New England prep school and being recruited by, I'm calling them prestigious Division I schools. And you know what, Lou? Stan? Doctor, I had the grades. Yeah, I got the grades.
That's what I'm talking about.
I had the grades. I used to change my F's when I was at Weaver to A's. They used to, the teacher had to write it. It's not like technology. They used to write F. Man, it took me 2 weeks to find that ink pen to match that flag, match that F. I said, man, you got all A's? I said, yeah, what are you talking about, girl? I got it. So, so I'm going to flip back. When I was on Bedford Street, my mother died in the house. My mother laid dead on the couch for 4 days. We didn't know what it was. We had not experienced death. And my uncle came in and started screaming, told us to get out the house.
Oh, wow.
And my aunt had died, and my mother had died. My father worked for Peddler's Junk on Canton Street, across the street from Bellevue Square. My father, when you see Sanford and Son, I'm Lamont, but I ain't no dummy. Because my father, I ain't no dummy, all right? Sanford, I watch that. I tell people, I say, hey, man, Sanford and Son ain't got nothing on me because I understand the junk business. And I learned the junk recycling business in the 70s, 60s, 70s, because they tore down all of Windsor Street. They tore down all those houses that were black people. They called it the bottom. And they brought that stuff out to the north end, to the dump. And I worked in the dump, picking through metal. People bought, houses there. We get the radiators, the brass, the aluminum, the copper, organize it, and then bring it to Canton Street and sell it to the Jewish people. They had the junkyard, okay, on top of the truck. So one summer we had Frank Miller work for my dad, George and Ralph Hardaway worked for my dad, Gene Walker, a.k.a. Mr. Pimp, worked for my father. And then at night, he put on his magic wardrobe and he's out there pimping. Whatever, no disrespect, miss, no disrespect. But, and that was all learning process. I would go with Gene to the gambling sites. He would win $200-300. Tell me, yeah, man, take that home. And I was his banker. I was his banker. He says, if I ask you for money, do not give it to me. I said, okay, man. And that's what I did. And Gene Walker, I mean, he was a hood guy up there on Capon Street, you know. And whenever I would come home, I would go see Gene, the guy that ran Jose, son, Ronnie Cole, at the pool room on Barber Street, you know. He used to come get me to go to the boys club out of Chattanooga. I never forget him. When I got stuff, I would bring him I gave him a Niagara shirt, basketball shirt. And he just about broke down and cried, you know. And I'm saying, what's the matter, man? He said, my boy, I saw you on TV, man. I was telling everybody that I knew you, but they don't believe me. I said, they don't believe you. I said, why don't they believe you? They said, man, because you're doing so good, they don't believe you that I know you. I said, man, you helped me. You used to come get me, ask my mom if I can go to the boys club to play basketball. You and Sammy Vaughn, Wallace Hightower. I will never ever forget that. So getting back, my mother died, and they came in. It was 5 of us, and they wanted to send us to all these different people's houses. You know, they could put us in the system. And my Aunt Grace and my uncle, my Aunt Grace could not read or write, okay? But if that teacher called, it was an ass whooping. No questions asked. It wasn't like I didn't say that. No. No. I remember one time the teacher called. I was in class hanging. We fooling around. And my buddy Moose Watson. Moose says, your aunt. I'm hitting inside the head. Your aunt. And I said, and she said, back then, you know, I'm gonna give you a picture of my aunt. It's about 5'5", had a stocking cap on, a jaw full of snuff. The stockings roll up to the knees with a knot in them, and a sleeveless day dress, and a spit cup because she dipped snuff. She said, come here, nigga. Well, excuse the language. Come here. And I said, oh, no. And back then, when they called, you better be the road runner and get up there. They ain't like, oh, man, what you want, man? Oh, no. No. She said, what did I tell you I'm going to do to you next time that teacher call? Now, I got all my boys in back of me. They laughing. They on the floor crying. And I said, you said you're going to hit me in the head with a hammer. She said, speak up. I said, she said, I ain't going to ask you again. Speak up. Now, I know the difference between a regular hammer and a ball peen hammer. My aunt had a short ball peen hammer. And she said, hold your head down. I said, Grace, don't hit me in the head with the hammer, with the ball peen hammer. My boys on the ground dying laughing. And she raised that hand. I watched the hammer raise up, and the teacher said, don't hit him, Miss Royster. He gonna do no. Don't kill him, Miss Royster. He's gonna do good. Listen, I sat in the front of the class. Now, she taught science. Now, this is $1 million question. When I graduated from college and got a job at Weaver teaching, what do you think I taught?
Science.
Science. To this day, most of the jobs that I've had have been either science or math and working with kids with behavioral issues or behavioral concerns, okay? I remember that. And Mr. Hurley comes in the classroom, McCleve, you're facing the hammer, huh? I said, nah, this man, I'm about ready. My aunt ready to kill me, man. So, you know, I graduated. Now, the other thing, I graduated from Niagara. I was captain of the basketball team, you know, president of the Black Student Union. I was in the photography club because they ain't had no black pictures of the kids, of the student. We did stuff. We had the OJs come on campus at Niagara. We used to have about 25-cent parties at Niagara. We had a black art festival at Niagara. I was president of the Black Student Union, and I got nominated to be president by the black student body there. And I'm like, wow, this is me. You want me to be the president? How much does it pay? It don't pay anything, Cleve. Okay, you know, I was about that money, you know. So anyway, you know, we accomplished a lot. And I graduated from Niagara, and they had, you know, the family there. My father drove up there in this raggedy Buick. To this day, I don't know how in the world that car made it there, but it was smoking. And it's like when he pulled up with my sister, who was on a mainline heroin addict. My sister was sober for my graduation. She was sober for my graduation. My aunt, who couldn't read and write, and my uncle, who was there, and I tried to be just like I had my uncle Willie Royster, my uncle Aunt, man. He was like the greatest uncle in the world. I tried to be a good uncle to my nieces and nephews, just like my uncle was good to me. I try to be like a Mr. Hurley to kids, just like Mr. Hurley was to me, or Mr. Gardner, or Mr. Gordon, or Mr. Andy Anderson, all those guys. It's so many pieces of me that is them. I can call some, I gotta be Miss Hurley today because this guy ain't gonna act right. I gotta go over and be Miss Maven today and understand what this kid is going through. And even when I worked for her at Fox Middle, she said, Mr. Royce, I need you to walk this guy home because he's gonna get beat up. Okay, Miss Maven. She understood. And I call her to this day, Miss Barbara Maven. I call her one of the best administrators I've ever worked for.
I met her.
Mm-hmm. You know Miss Maven?
I met her. Weaver High School.
Yes.
Mid 90s. Yeah.
Yes. Listen. You ever see her again, you can say, who calls you the greatest administrator in the world? And she gonna say Cleve Royster. But then, what's interesting? The teachers there were trying to hook me up to go ask her to go to a basketball game. I say, man, she's too beautiful. She's in charge. She's a vice principal. I said, I was always scared of her. I don't know what, I can't even figure it out now. I just didn't have I was scared. I was scared.
You hadn't read my book up to then, Cleve.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Lou, the book. We'll talk about the book later, Louis.
Hey, Cleve, listen, we're going to take a break, man. It's great listening to you and to all the folks listening. This is Hartford history being told by a Hartford legend right here on Morning Conversations. That's how we doing it, family. That's how we doing it.
Representing Hartford all day, every day.
But now look, I'm in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and guys like Lou, Fred Phillips, a bunch of guys that say Joe Pina. I come up every summer and work Joe Pina's basketball camp out in Bloomfield every summer. And, I do that because I come and I work with, kind of go around with Fred Phillips, men standing up against violence, and I respect that. I have so much respect for that because you know what? Fred think he Mr. Hurley, but a better dressed Mr. Hurley. That's what Fred Phillips thinks.
Hey, listen, and ain't nothing wrong with that because Fred Phillips is a magnificent brother, and if he wants to take on some of the work that the magnificent Doc Hurley did, we okay with that, brother.
Oh yeah, I'm okay with it too. But I keep telling Fred, I say, hey, I'm the number one Doc Hurley guy. You just better dress. He just better dress.
That's what's up, man.
But
take a break, Cleve.
Lou, you and I are brothers. We went through stuff. We went through discrimination at a basketball camp where they didn't want you to work. And I remember when I told him, I said, well, if he ain't working, I ain't working.
That's right. That's what
Did we work, Lou?
Black and brown support for real.
That's right, sir, and brother. We work.
I love it, man. All right, Cleve, we got to take a break, man. Give us a moment, please.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, brother.
All right, my friends, stick and stay. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
So my name is Nelky Maldonado.
My name is Ramon L. Arroyo.
And we know that Hartford Parent University provides good services and resources to parents in our communities, which are greatly needed because a lot of times our parents, they don't know where to go, how to get information, and being part of this program is essential to them in being successful in their children's education.
And I think that parents should get involved in their kids' education because it's very important. Education is, I always believe, is a success in life. If you got a good education, you can be very successful.
So we encourage our parents to please come join the program, ask lots of questions, and I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed.
How do you define evil? Is it the pedophile school administrator or taxation without representation? Is it the gatekeeping community leaders who sell out the very people they are fighting for? Or is evil the politician that puts out lies and takes in cash? However you may classify evil, having to choose the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. Nowhere does this rule apply more than during an election for mayor. Choosing a candidate that is the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. No wonder so many people don't vote. It's time for constituents to flip the script and vote for a mayor you can trust. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I approve this message, and I am asking you for your vote. I, like you, am an independent thinker. So let's sit down and talk about my path to victory and why my plan for Hartford will work. Stop listening to the uninformed evil interests that tell you I can't win. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. It's time to leave the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
Hi,
My name's J. Stan McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, welcome back. It's Morning Talk. J. Stan McCauley here with the champions of talk, Dr. Maya Bowen and Cacique, along with our special guest, Cleve Royster.
Cleve, man, it's so good to listen to all these wonderful stories about people that are really heroes in Hartford, man. These people that you keep mentioning, Doc Hurley, Mr. Gordon, you know, all these other people, man, that kind of impacted in an extremely positive way so many lives of young men and young women, and we must always keep their name, you know, in good standing. In our, you know, we have to put their names out there so people remember them, man. And it's wonderful.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful to hear an esteemed elder like you share these wonderful stories. And you got a shout out, man. You got a shout out from brother Bill Costin, man.
Yes.
Hey,
I got
Mr. Buffalo Bill.
Yes.
I got a Hurley connection too. I was the fourth grade student of his daughter at Rawson Elementary School back in the 80s.
Oh my God!
Yes,
you know
sir.
What? You're giving me chills. You know,
Mrs. Cosley. Mrs. Cosley. Yes.
Yes, Mrs. Cosley. When he passed away, it was one. I live in Virginia, and it was a snowstorm, and you know God is good because there was no way in the world
all the time
that my wife and I got on the bus and I say, baby, I gotta go see Mr. Hurley for the last time on this earth. Okay, and we got on a bus, and it was one of the worst snowstorms coming up from Virginia to DC to Hartford. And you know what? That bus actually got there on time. I don't know how that man did that. Okay, but when we pulled up at that Hartford bus terminal, the people on that bus was just clapping for him because it was crazy.
All right.
The family asked me to speak. Now there was a lot of stuff going on that I was unaware of because I had moved. I had moved away, and my wife and I, my now wife and I, we used to come up and we used to go look for Mr. Hurley. We used to go look for Mr. Hurley, and we found out that he was at some facility in West Hartford. And every time we would go there, he would be gone. And he was a Cowboys fan, so I always would leave him something about the Cowboys. And you know something? I went into his room, and I had sent him. I had made the cover of Niagara University basketball program because I was captain of the team. And I went into his room, and he had the same book program pinned to his wall. And if you looked at the cover, you can see all the different pinholes that he had. When he moved, that book moved. You know, and you can see the pinholes. And I was so touched by that. So we finally caught up to him at the Parker Center. We call it Parker Center back in the day. Now it's something else, Anderson Center. We caught up when we walked in there, and I ran into Jonathan Bruce. And he said, "Hey, Cleve, how you doing?" I said, "Good, good." And Mr. Hurley was in a wheelchair. That wheelchair did a willy. He said, "He's here to see me. He's here to see me. That's my boy, Big Cleve."
Hey,
hey, Big Cleve, boy, that's my boy, Big Cleve. I said, "How you doing, Mr. Hurley?" And he stood up out that wheelchair and hugged me, man. He said, "Man, you found me." He said, "I heard you were looking for." I said, "Mr. Hurley, we didn't went to your house. We didn't went to the place in West Hartford that you was hospitalized for a minute." And they said, "Go up to the center." I even went to the center there's a day center out in Bloomfield, kind of on Granby Street, I think. We went there, and they say, "No, he's at Hartford today." And we went there, and he was there. And I forget the guy that died recently that drove him around. Another guy that gave Mr. Hurley hell at school. But you know what? That guy drove Mr. Hurley around for years. I can't remember his name offhand. But you know, that kind of stuff. It was so much good. I look at Dr. Richard Cobb. He was Weaver's team physician. He wanted me to go to Providence, but I ended up going to Niagara. He said, "I ain't mad at you." But what I'm going to allude to, now let's talk about all of a sudden, all these private and Catholic schools start accepting and taking. Now it's different between accepting, you go through the application process, we'll accept you. But then they say, "Wait a minute, we're going to take this guy out of that community." John Pinckney, Avon Old Farms, he's a minister now, or a pastor. John Pinckney. I remember Donnie Lambert was like one of the best point guards I played with. Dee Matthews, great point guard. Dee decided to stay at Weaver. Donnie went to Kingswood. And Lou, y'all, I'm talking back in the day. I ain't talking about now. You go to the prep school, it's more of us there than them, in a sense. You know, in a sense. And you look at all these kids at these private schools now, getting their books done, getting scholarships and things like that. There was a whole bunch of trailblazing that had to take place. Okay, so now you look at, they got postgraduate programs, and it's mostly filled with minority athletes, and that's fine. Hey, by any means necessary, get you an education, because if you're an athlete, you have a carrot, and if you don't manage that carrot correctly, it's go bad on you. Example, look at this guy, John Morant. How do you, in our minds, how do you mess up at that level? You know, but it happens.
Humanness is shown. his humanness is showing, right? He's
Right,
young,
exactly.
immature, right? Yeah,
Yep.
it happens.
It happens, and it just amazes me that you see this. My own cousin, Michael Irvin. I'm like, Mike, you can't be alone at no night anywhere in this country because people coming at you, but you decide to venture out alone, and look what happened. I mean, he knows that. That's nothing new, But it's so much stuff that's going on. I live here in Virginia, Fredericksburg, and I try to do my basketball. And I'm doing 17 basketball games a week. It just ended this past Monday, and it was great because athletics and seeing the kids play and messing with the kids on the court, and that's my therapy. Please believe me, God, that's my therapy. I feel so much better. I may go in there like all energetic, but at the end of the day, I'm walking off the court like Fred Sanford because, I'm done. I'm done. I have to regroup, and I'm done. And even here, I see stuff. I got a kid that plays for St. Michael's up in Vermont that I happen to know the coach up there, assistant coach. And Lou, you remember Shea Berry from Fordham?
Yes.
He's at St. Michael's. I called Shea Berry, and I said, Shay, I got this kid down here, man. He's the best kept secret in Virginia. Shay said, when can he come up to visit? I said, when do you want to see him? He says, how about Friday? I said, he'll be there. That kid plays for St. Michael's right now. And you can go on St. Michael's men's basketball roster. His name is Jacob Donovan. Okay? A kid that, now, what I'm alluding to is that Shay knew us when we were in our prime because we worked for him and Nick McCarthy at Fordham basketball camp. That's when you came up with the original Labrador dog thing, Lou. But, that's that connection that he knows if we are calling him about somebody, the kid must be okay. And he took that kid almost on my word after he went through the interview and the workout, and, he liked the attitude. And the kids, he started as a freshman. So the kid that there's a kid on that team too that lives across the street from my brother out in Windsor Locks. I remember seeing that kid when he was 7, 8 years old out in the driveway playing basketball, talking to himself. So when I went up to St. Thomas More for a thing for Ernie, I said that this is so interesting because, and Joe Pena and I went to that one. I said it's interesting is that this kid got a full scholarship to St. Michael's, and when he was young, y'all knew this, I thought something was wrong with the kid. And he's sitting there. I said, I thought something was wrong with the kid because he was out in the driveway talking to himself. But what he was doing, he was dreaming about him making a basket and all this, dreams. Kid, we all have dreams. He was dreaming that he made the shot and they won. He's running down the end of the driveway. So, like I said earlier, we're good for nicknames. I call him to this day. I'll say, hey, driveway All-American. He puts the biggest smile on his face. I say, hey, driveway All-American. Wait a minute. It's just like your little smart behind son. We was giving a lecture at Fordham basketball camp, and I said speeding quickness. And then Lou, I'm going to get it next time. I got to get him. Lou said speeding quickness, okay? And I realized I made a mistake, but he didn't have to check me like that, Lou, So,
hey, Cleve,
anyway.
Listen, thank you for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. And we'll have you back on, man, in a little bit.
Hey,
it's great.
Listen,
great stories, man.
Anytime. And I want to correct one thing. Stan, you got half of my vote. The other half, I got to give to Eric Coleman because Eric was one of these guys who had an opportunity to go to a prep school. You know what I mean? Back in the 60s. I'm talking about back in the 60s. So no disrespect to either one of you. I love both of y'all. And you're doing something great for that community, and he's going to do something great for that community. And the bottom line or the resultant is that the people in the community are going to benefit. Amen. And Lou, next time we'll talk about the book. Okay.
All right, Cleve, take care, brother.
All right. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course.
Thanks for inviting me. Y'all made my day.
We'll see you soon. God bless you.
Okay.
Have
All
a
right,
great
bye
one.
bye.
Peace, Royce.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.
Man, what a wonderful storyteller that Cleve is, huh?
Mm-hmm.
He had me here sitting on the edge, man. And I love it when he talks about Bobby Knight and Doc Hurley, because these people were also my heroes. So yes, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that the historical aspects of Hartford in terms of all the individuals that grew up on these streets. The thing that he pointed out that stuck with me was related to the respect that actually was given in both directions, from the youth to the adults, and those adults that actually took the time. And he mentioned 5 to 10 minutes. That's all it takes. It's all it takes. It's not rocket science. It's all about building a relationship and identifying that the respect between two human beings can establish a foundation that can actually allow for both individuals to grow in multiple ways in terms of having an understanding of how to relate to each other. So that was awesome. That was totally awesome. And yeah, the Hurley connection definitely here live on Morning Talk Wednesday,
Yes, definitely.
March 8th, 2023. It's all good. It is all good.
And to borrow Cleve's term, I think that to some degree we are all Hurley soldiers, man.
Hey, the
put it
connection
out
is
there,
there.
man. Yeah.
Connection is there. I just wanted to talk on something real quick, bringing us back to the Hartford Board of Education meeting last night. So it was clear that the superintendent was alluding to some community forums that had some notable attendance. However, what ended up happening is that the presentation of questions asked and answered were not posted to the actual website, that being board docs or any other notable location online for the community to actually access. So the question then becomes, where are these FAQs in terms of a link regarding the budget, right? So that's MIA, that's missing in action for us. And then additionally, what is noted to be a question is how many people actually attended these forums that the superintendent noted along the way of the budgeting process. And then so lastly, based on what was gathered from this presentation, how it is that individuals in attendance at that meeting and other meetings didn't really have a platform to actually pose any questions that could actually be addressed and live conversation between the superintendent's cabinet and herself. So ultimately, final question is, where are the analytics being made available to us as a community and as stakeholders of Hartford Public School System? That the transparency is very much lacking. So we're hoping that going forward that there is some corrective actions put into place so that the community can become well informed regarding specific inputs, and those outputs would be answers to questions that have been posed, as well as making sure that if we're using technology, make sure those links are available.
So, Dr. Maya,
yes,
I think that from the information that you're providing us, I surmise that it's nothing more than more evasive action taken by the superintendent and her staff, which really speaks about the lack of accountability that we're seeing. And I think that disrespect and lack of consideration for this community, the families and the children of this community, is becoming more and more like evident every day, is more ramped up.
It's right in our face.
Yeah,
it's
man.
interesting. It's interesting, Lou, right? So imagine for a second that I asked you to exchange a $20 bill for $100 bill, right? But in fact, what ended up happening is right in front of us both, I actually gave you a 20 for a 20. And so in terms of the request, it never happened because you didn't exchange the denomination that I was asking you for, right? Or the ask is not presented with the results of the desired request, a 2400, but you did a 2420. And so it's right in front of us, right? It's all about whether or not individuals are paying attention to how it is that what appears to be the shuffle game, right? We're shuffling around certain things in terms of a lot of words being used, but ain't nothing really being said. And so you get lost in the weeds when it is that you're trying to get a question addressed that could be as simple as yes or no, but all this other
evasive behavior.
Yes, all these other words have been added to only just evade the question. So evading the question is a strategy that is used very well within the superintendent's cabinet. I got to give them 2 thumbs up on that. They do that excellent. They get an A+.
So let me ask you this, Dr. Maya, and to the audience, to stand, to our viewers and listeners. When does this evasive behavior that's being exhibited by the superintendent and her cabinet, when does that go from not following the rules and being evasive to criminal behavior? What does it take for it to graduate to that level?
That's a great question. So in terms of whether or not the rules and the policies are actually being followed, that's going to call into action individuals that actually pinpoint that and are then taken seriously enough to change said behaviors, because until it is that the behaviors are actually changed, right? So it can be addressed, but if it is that there's no follow-up with consequences, then we're going to get the status quo that we get.
So let me ask you
a follow-up.
Let me ask you the same question in another way.
Okay.
What is the recourse for members of the Board of Ed who are being denied pertinent information to do their job to the best of their abilities? What is the recourse for members of the community who are met with the same type of pushback?
So in terms of being membership of the community has to hold the task who they elected in terms of board representation, right? They've got to be on them like white on rice, right? So or brown on rice, because it's brown and it's white rice. So here's the thing, where it is that you're paying attention, you have your finger on the pulse, hold your elected officials accountable to address those issues. If you hear or don't hear something being posed to the superintendent or the cabinet to be addressed, then you yourself have to say, hey, elected official, listen, I asked you to actually do this, X, Y, and Z, and that has not been done. When are you going to get that done?
So it
has to be consistent, Lou. It has to be consistent.
Let me ask this question, Dr. Maya.
Yes.
From what I understand, now please correct me if I'm wrong. You know, you stand members of our listening or viewing audience. But as far as I understand, the superintendent is supposed to answer to the members of the Board of Education.
That's correct. That's correct. They are the supervisory. They are the supervisory board.
So here's the question. What happens when the superintendent is not responding appropriately to the request made by either community members or Board of Ed members? What is the recourse? What is the next level? Who do they complain to? Do they go to the mayor? Do they go to the State Board of Education? Because people want to know. I'm asking these questions because our audience wants to know.
It's a very relevant question that you ask, because look at this from this perspective, Luke. When it is that you become a board member, you have to understand your role as being a supervisor of the superintendent. Where it is that you don't understand or carry out your role as a board member in that way, then that's going to be problematic. So the next level would be whichever government body that would be able to chime in on specifics. But initially, really and truly, Lou, think about it this way. When you're hired to do a job and it's based on being a supervisor, you yourself have to understand what it is that you're going to have to do in that supervisory role. Now, if you don't do that, then of course there's someone higher above that can speak about it. But again, initially, that higher above is not the one that's sitting in the seat to actually place that vote. So the mindset in terms of a Harvard Board of Education board member has to be that I'm here to supervise what it is that is going on in respects to the superintendent and the cabinet or her cabinet. And if I do this well, then questions that I ask will ultimately be addressed and hopefully in a timely manner. But if I don't see myself as a supervisor, but more so as a colleague and friend to rubber stamp, then we get the status quo that we have.
Your answer is interesting only because I know you so well and you're a dear friend. You sound like a superintendent.
Oh, listen, this is why I went into the doctoral program, because I saw myself stepping into that role. Well, but I don't live in Hartford, so that's a
right.
Whole
But I only say that to say this. What you need to do would be to answer his question directly. Mm-hmm. Fire her.
Oh, that's okay. So
yeah. So I mean, if the employee, there you go. If the employee doesn't do the job that they were hired for, that's how you hold them accountable. And the board members, you vote them out of office. The ones that are appointed by the mayor, you elect a better mayor or a different mayor.
Or you put the squeeze on them.
And you get rid of those appointees.
All of this,
all of these people answer to the constituents, and if you let them get away with it, then they will get away with it.
And the status quo.
And make no mistake about that.
It's what it is. That's right, Stan. Thank you for redirecting that to simplify it and answer your question directly, Lou. Terminate.
And and I think that that's my point, that when these things aren't happening, then we have to look for recourse. And sometimes that recourse could mean corrective action, but it could also mean going right to termination because they're not following directions. And I think that generally what happens is that, once you fire the superintendent, then everybody runs for cover. And that's also dangerous because what ends up happening is the same people, because when you're superintendent, you got to go in with the understanding, and everybody under you, if you didn't bring them with you, they want to see you fail. I don't care how much they tell you they love you and, she's great or he's great. They want to see you fail. That's human nature. That's the way we've been socialized. So in order for you to be the most successful managers, they bring their own team or they build their own team. People that they can trust, people that they can count on, people that are going to represent them in a professional and in an appropriate way. You know what I'm saying? And so we don't have that. I remember I went to a meeting at Buckley with the assistant superintendent. She ended up being some lady ended up being the superintendent in Bridgeport, and they ran her out. I think she had to be escorted out by the police because she went to Bridgeport with the same nonsense that she was here with. We had a meeting at Buckley. She refused to answer questions from the community. And when we started ramping up the questions, she packed up and left and didn't say anything. Her and another guy named Swan, who was also one of the brothers who was associated with stealing large amount of money in Springfield, in one of the Springfield school districts.
To your point, Lou, right?
Yes.
So you said, you either bring your own, representatives or cabinet or team with you. The danger of doing that is that if they're if they're going to be yes people, right? Where you are actually going to be steered wrong is uh having individuals always saying yes to whatever it is that you're doing, whereas if they really were respected and valued in terms of their input, even if you are going down the wrong pathway, they will tell you that. And if there's mutual respect between you all, then you can humbly accept that their input has some merit and,
or it's more valuable than yours at that
consideration.
particular moment in time. And if you don't have a team like that, Dr. Maya, then you don't need a team. You need.
Well,
you
say
need
that one more time, because I missed that beginning part.
Well, I said that if you don't have a team like that, then you don't have a team, because when I say by bringing or building your own team, you build individuals who are competent in their field, and then you let them do what they do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the only thing that you ask is that you report back, let me know if the things that I need to know, but particularly when you need my support, not just when you got in trouble, but when you need my support, and you're not getting things done. But you want a team that you want to build a team that if you had to leave today,
They can
whatever
run
you
it.
started, it'll run by itself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of team you want to build. And that can only happen, people, to all our listeners and viewers, that could only happen, okay, when you have confidence and trust in the people that you work with.
That's right.
And that's where that value factor comes in, Dr. Maya.
That's a
Because I
good point.
always say I never want anyone around me who doesn't want the very best for me that life has to offer. And if you are around me and if you have someone around you and they don't want that for you, then the question becomes, why are they around me? It's not that hard, you know?
All right. Well, we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you for flying with us. And we'll do this one more time next week.
Absolutely.
And the weeks after that. So
Yeah, thank you so much, Stan. It was a great show.
great program. Got a lot of thumbs
Yes.
up from the audience. And they really enjoyed our guests. We had one viewer wanted to send a message to us. So I sent her message to the guests.
Okay, beautiful, man.
And she wanted to have a
Nice.
conversation about the bottoms and about Clay Arsenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cleve grew up in that neighborhood, and there's a lot of wonderful stories, a lot of great people that came from out of there. And I just want to thank all of the great people of Hartford, man, that have loved this city unconditionally and have dedicated themselves to the betterment of our community. I thank you. And on behalf of all our families, we thank you. So thank you
Yes.
very much.
All right.
Yes. All right. Onward and upward. Standing in the place of victory. Let's go. Stand 2023.
Oh, I like that.
Mayor.
Yes.
There we go.
Stan McCauley for mayor.
Right.
Stand for
And
stand.
that's just the beginning, because when he turns Hartford around, then we can put him in the governor's office and make some sense out of the state stuff, man.
No.
Yes.
No.
You're a young man, Stan.
No,
You got
no.
a lot of thread on that tire, buddy.
No. Hartford. Hartford. All right, my friends, we will see you next time. You all have a great rest of your day. We're going to let our good friend Jay Hogarth take us out. You all have a blessed rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Ciao.
All right, now. Thank you, Stan.
All right.
Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. It is time to clear the air and vote for a mayor who is unbought, unbossed, trusted, and accountable to you, the constituent. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I am an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote for mayor of the city of Hartford. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.